welcome, Christina.
Can I sort of move this way so just so I can see? In 1925, Calvin Coolidge said that the chief business of America is business. In 1929, Le Corbusier, the French architect, talked about a machine for living. And in 1933, the World's Fair in Chicago had a big section on housing, a lot of it having to do with alternate. This is John Westfall. In the early 1930s, he worked for the Hobart Brother Company, and he told me that Edward Hobart, one of the brothers, came to him and said, "John, I've got something for you to do." And that is Edward Hobart's house in the background. It is one of two houses that were unique. Edward Hobart got things done. Those are his initials, EAH. He handed out these little file cards to his employees every morning, and then he would follow up on it the next day. And on it, he would just direct people what to do. And William Turner was a draftsman who literally followed EA around and transferred things to paper. Now, this was designed by an architect. This is the original. This is called the Hobart House. It is authentic, meaning it was of its time. It represents Art Deco, it represents Art Moderne, and unfortunately the architect had no idea how these houses were being built. This is from that original brochure. It tells you how efficient the house was, that the house was termite proof, that there's not a nail in the Hobart house, and fireproof, lightning proof, all these things that people were afraid of. This is Marion Centliver. This is the way the house looked in 1992. I want to draw your attention to how rusted it became, but you can still see those beautiful details, including the rounded corners, which made steel ideal for that kind of fluid line that they wanted to achieve. Marion actually built that house by himself, which, again, going back to America's business is business, Hobart was making welders. It was the Depression. There was not enough housing. They were trying to communicate to people that if you learned how to weld, you by yourself could make your own home. This is the whole vignette of the way this house was built. That's Edward Hobart down in the lower left-hand corner in the suit, seersucker suit that he always had long wool underwear underneath. And in the upper right, you see that they didn't have equipment. There were 8 men lifting those roof panels up. Now, the conceit in these houses, this was on the front cover of Decoration magazine in the UK at that time, 1935. The furniture is steel, and it was made by Sunshade Company in Troy, Ohio, and you'll never be able to move that mirror. The valances, everything is made of steel. The only thing in a Hobart house that's not steel is the toilet, the sink, and the bathtub. But I want to draw your attention, they did have a decorator, how nicely she did those chrome tiebacks on those little curtains. And the Venetian blinds are wood. That was also something that cracked me up. This is the interior of the Hobart factory. This is probably 1938. The house that's in the farthest away, I want to just point that one out to you because the next slide will refer to that. 7 houses could be built in the factory. They had an Italian wrought iron worker. All the houses had unique wrought iron work. This is Edna May. In 1937, she went into the factory to pick her first home. For $25 a month, she could rent a house on Hobart Circle, and as she explained to me, that was okay because that would be 1/4 of her and her new husband's income. This is a Hobart house. It's a Regency being pulled down the street. This is right in front of the factory. I love the man on the roof, but this is being pulled right around the corner and being eased into Hobart Circle. They made all their own equipment. They had all of their own construction crew, and this is the way they dropped it on with just jacks and pulleys, and the foundation had been made on Hobart Circle, and there was not this is like prefab at its nightmarish worst. You know, like there was no accommodation for change. This is the beautiful Hobart Circle that was meant to be a model community for visiting potentates and important people to come and see and look at what a wonderful, warm, fuzzy place we've created in Troy, Ohio. Back in the right-hand corner is one of the other 2 mansions that was built in steel. Gladys and Janet met on Hobart Circle in like post-war, post-Second World War. Gladys on the left lived in this house. They took great pleasure in telling me all sorts of bawdy stories about how loud the house was, that if they were having marital relations, all of the house would shake. Now this is actually this house is the one that went the furthest from Troy, which is actually just out on Polecat Road. It's in the middle of the country, not far from my house. This was the Hobart's country house. Their original farmstead burned, and Peter Hobart, the youngest of the children of William Hobart, one of the brothers, told me that when he was in that house, he actually experienced St. Elmo's fire, where the entire ceiling was alight with blue flame. You can see that this is Hobart Welded Steel House. This is the community of Edge Hill in Troy. The little brown dots are actually steel houses. But Hobart envisioned having 100 steel houses. Unfortunately, the war did make steel go up in price, and welding was then like everybody wanted welding. This is inside E.A. Hobart's house. I wanted to especially draw attention to the parquet floor in front of the window. It is like living in a refrigerator, and it did not have a defrost system. Moisture is a problem. They rusted, and they're tearing down the factory this year.